Have you made your plans for your Christmas flower arranging? What I love doing is getting inspiration from Country Living magazine, which is a really expensive magazine. I think I paid, well, it's not too bad actually, £6.99. So you need to think of this as less as a magazine and more of a reference book that you can come back to year after year. So what I like to do is have a notebook and pen, and I've already marked some pages I want to come back to and have a really good look at some of the pictures and the inspiration. And of course, a hot cup of tea. So years and years ago, I used to go through these magazines and rip out the pages that I liked and put them in a folder and then throw the magazine away. And I found the problem with that is that over the years, you can't remember why you've ripped the page out. And also your tastes and fashions change. So what I like to do is to keep all my general glossy magazines from Christmas to Christmas, and I keep them up in my loft, and about November time each year I bring them back downstairs and I can revisit them like old friends and find things that inspire me. And I have found it also really helpful to write down, to mark the pages, so I don't like folding back the pages in my magazine. And I used to put loads and loads of bookmarks in my pages, and these are just scraps of paper, but then I could never work out on the page what it was that what attracted me to the page. So I've started writing little notes, and this one says styling for white bench on patio, and that's what you need your notebook for as well. If you have got any ideas or page numbers you want to write down, having a notebook to hand is a really good idea. So I'm looking at this page again, so it would have been may well be sort of 6 weeks since I last looked at this magazine. But we do have a bench on our patio, and I quite like this idea of setting up, decoratively positioning our watering can. I've got a lantern which I've recently thrifted, and a little tub here with a mini Christmas tree in it, and plant pots. So all the things that perhaps you would normally have in your garden, but displaying them in a more decorative way. So absolutely gorgeous pictures. So as I flick through the pages of Country Living, let me know in the comments what pages and projects attracted you. So this attracted me, a really simple idea. There's a collection of glass bottles here, some coloured glasses, some antique medicine bottles there. And what I liked was the simplicity of the silver birch twigs, and some of them have still got the leaves on. They haven't all fallen off for autumn yet. And of course, if you have got bare branches and it is autumn time now, you could always pick some leaves that you really like, perhaps even press them or just glue them on as they naturally are. If you don't press them, as they dry, they will curl and shrivel. So it just depends whether you want something that looks really natural but slightly shriveled, or whether you'd like to stage it a little bit more and use some pressed leaves. Matchboxes. I really like this idea. I have got a perpetual advent calendar for my daughter, and the problem with these things is, beautiful as they look, the little cubby holes are absolutely tiny. But I just love this idea. But wouldn't you have to go through an awful lot of matchboxes? But I particularly like the way that they had been covered up with wallpaper or washi paper, something like that. So it's a group of one there, a group of two there, a group of four there, and just with this piece of paper that goes all the way around. And I'm sure that would be a very adaptable idea. And here, my note says cards in bottles. So I don't know about you, but normally I recycle my Christmas cards, and in fact we don't send many Christmas cards these days. We normally email people, text people, see people in person. I send a few select cards to friends and family that I don't see very often. And after Christmas, I normally either save the cards to make gift tags the following year, and I've got a video on that, and I'll try and remember to link it in the description under the video. But I have got some beautiful cards that have either been homemade by friends, handmade, or they're just beautiful images. And so actually I've got some cards I've never sent to anybody because I've bought them from local artists and they're too good to send. But I quite like this, of displaying them in really big. This is a Kilner jar here, or a mason jar, and some jars here with stoppers. And actually this looks like a lantern. It's got a metal lid on there. So I thought, rather than just sort of scattering them around the house and pretending they've been sent to me this year, I might actually make more of a feature of my favourite Christmas cards and have them displayed in a little vignette here. And actually, while we're here, these lovely little, I don't know what they would have been originally, little pie dishes, little metal dishes, and I've managed to thrift some of those recently, and they just make really great holders for your tea lights. So what I tend to do with these magazines is I'm just looking at the craft projects, the flower arranging ideas, and I don't often look at the recipes, which tend to be at the back of Country Living magazine, because I've got my own tried and tested recipes for the Christmas time, and I'm a bit of a traditionalist, and we always have the same thing every year, but I do ring the changes a little bit. And this note says red teapot, and this is an enamel teapot, or it's a coffee pot, I would say, tall coffee pot. And I managed to buy one of those from the vintage market in town, which must have been this time last year. And in a charity shop this summer, I've actually found a teapot, a red teapot. So when I'm always looking out for Christmassy bits and pieces throughout the year, but what I try and do is to put them straight up into my loft in the area designated for Christmas things, and then just bring them down as and when I need them. Otherwise, the whole house gets too cluttered up with things. And this reminds me as well that I have got a little stack of Russian dolls, and I think mine are all Father Christmases, like this one. I think that's Father Christmas as well. Doesn't this absolutely gorgeous? All that winter glow. This looks absolutely gorgeous. So this cottage is just tiny, absolutely tiny, but really lots of red interest there. And you can see the red tea towels here hanging over the Rayburn stove. I have just started bringing down my festive tea towels. So I've bought a new set of oven gloves from the charity shop, which are red with just a little bit of a festive sprig on them. So they're not shouting, "I am Christmas." There's just a subtle movement towards the reds in my house. And I've started to change out the cushions on my kitchen chair. I've got a little thermos flask, a red and white stripy thermos flask. I've got a few sprigs of holly berries in it. So it's just the slow advancement of the festive period, rather than feeling that it's got to be a chore and it's got to be done and it's got to be done now and then. And I just like to slowly build up. So here I have made marked blues and greens. I can't remember why I've said blues and greens, other than the fact that I quite like the freshness of these colours, but I am a little bit of a traditionalist at Christmas time, and I do like reds, whites and golds with a little bit of green in it. But wouldn't that be great if you were going, a little bit more ambitious with your decorating plans this year? And here I've put green beakers on the table here. So I have got some vintage green glasses, which are quite similar to this. These look like they've got a sort of crinkle finish to them, but mine are a similar colour and a similar shape. And they came from my mum, who I think had them from her mother's Christmas table. So I'm guessing they are my grandmother's. And we used these last Christmas. I'm slightly nervous about breaking them, but I guess with these things, you need to use them. Otherwise, again, they're just sitting in cupboards gathering dust. So that's my reminder that I'm going to dig out my green beakers and use those on my Christmas table. A little bit of a shopping article there, food article, and the lovely gardens with the frosty grasses if you're into gardening. But I'm going to skip through to the flowers. And here it says glass jar. That's why I've marked this page, and it's because of this glass jar. I have got about 4 or 5 of these glass jars, and they are like jam jars, but they've got shaped edge to them, a multifaceted edge to them, and the glass is quite thick, and they look like jam jars, but they don't have the screw top fixing at the top. And I bought a couple recently in the summer at Car Boot Fair, and I noticed a lady at our local vintage market also had them, and I was feeling brave, so I asked her what they would have been used for originally, and she said they were French jam jars, and I think they must have a clip lid on the top, like a sort of almost like a metal pull-off lid. But I quite like this idea of repotting Christmas bulbs. Well, these look like they are probably narcissi, and you can see here it's got moss at the bottom. The bulbs are just resting on the surface, probably just at the moss. I don't think there'll be any compost in there. And there's pine cones and star anise and a sprig of the holly berries there, and a gorgeous wreath, and of course amaryllis, vintage decorations. So I've got my mum's decorations from the 1950s when she first got married, and it's in an identical box to this. So sometimes I put them on our tree, sometimes I don't, and sometimes I just display them as if I'm about to put them on the tree. And here, what does this note say? Masses of stars, and it's got a note like pomegranates, because I was looking at another magazine and there was something that a lady had designed pomegranates, and they were tumbling off the side of her mantelpiece. I'm not entirely sure how she managed to do that, because the pomegranates will be really heavy. You could wire them up, but they would be really, really heavy. But she had this sort of asymmetrical flow of them coming off her mantelpiece, and that's what these stars reminded me of. So these stars are made using sheet music. It looks like they might have been cut out by hand, but I've got a stamp, a craft stamp that cuts out stars. And again, if I remember, I'll leave a link to that underneath the video if you're interested in sourcing the same. So it looks like somebody's had a merry old time punching out all these stars or cutting them out individually, and they are on a fine wire, and then it just looks like, you know, when you have a tangle, if you ever make your own paper chains and they end up being tangled, so instead of trying to stretch them all out and have them looking very delicate, they have pretty much been, you know, it looks like they've been lifted out of the bag and just rested on the side, and they're tumbling down. So sometimes perhaps you just need to do things as they happen rather than trying to be too particular. And here, terracotta candles. So this is such a classic arrangement. It's a terracotta pot, and a terracotta isn't watertight. So if you are using terracotta pots, whether they're aged like this one or brand new, you will need to line them if you're using fresh flower foam. So I normally use an old bread bag or a sandwich bag, something like that. Dig out something from my recycling, as long as it doesn't have holes in it, and then put your foam inside, and then add in your greenery. And what you could do if you wanted to go foam free is not to use your flower foam, because all these decorative items here, it looks like there's Scots pine, there's Christmas tree pine, there's pine cones, there's little berries, that you could just arrange them either in water with a glass inside, or just arrange them without any water source, because this greenery will last quite a long time. The only problem will be if you actually want to put the candle in, it needs to be put into a firm base, and that's the where the flower foam becomes really useful, because it provides a firm base for your candles. And also, rather than pushing the candles direct into the flower foam, you need to add sort of little roots to it using floristry wire that you tape onto the edge of the candle. So if you'd like to know more how to do that, leave me a comment, and perhaps I'll do a video short for you and I can show you how to do that. So, subscriptions, oh, lovely cake there. I love Christmas cake. And there's a children's nativity paper decorations here. Let's skip through and see what else is here. Gorgeous tree there, lovely and white. Let's skip over the food section, and coming to, I think these are real life readers' homes, past, present and perfect. And the reason I flagged this up is because it's a house in Kent, which is the county that I live in the southeast of England, and it says it's Tenterden, Scotney. So of course you never have the exact addresses of these places, but Tenterden is about a half an hour drive away from us, and I thought that looked quite interesting. I just love, this is the beauty of the magazines. You can just read them, you can look through the pictures, and then you can really start to investigate. What is that I like about this corner? So it's a bare wood top. There's candlelight here, little lanterns, a tiny jug with some dried stems, an Anglepoise lamp, a bowl of fruit decoratively arranged. There's an old plate here with a glass dish, looks like it's got another candle in, And then it looks like it's a pomander, the orange studded with cloves with a little ribbon. And I do think I've got a video on how to make pomanders. So again, I'll try and remember to link that in the show notes underneath the video. And if I forget, leave me a comment and I will make sure that I find the video for you. So real life homes, absolutely gorgeous. And here, glasses, cups and saucer. Aha. So here we got more green glasses displayed. But what I have drawn my eye to here is a green glass cup and saucer, and I have got very similar, but it's in clear glass, and they are crockery that I have picked up from the charity shop when my daughter was little. So we used to use these for putting in her yoghurt and her fruit. So we use them as a little pudding receptacle. But I might dig those out and use those on my Christmas table. Just switch things around a little bit. And in terms of switching things around, I've gone through the cupboard where I keep all our mugs, and I've put all the blue and flowery ones away, the ones that say spring and summer to me. And I've packed away all my spring and summer tea towels, so I can just start rolling things out that are a little bit different, just to mark the changing seasons. And I love doing that. Otherwise, you know, the whole year just zips past and you lose track of where you're going. Plaid, this one says. Plaid. I can see a plaid shirt here. Was that what I meant? And there's a tartan scarf. I'm not quite sure why I had plaid there. But it's a green plaid shirt, and it's a red tartan scarf. So again, if you want to, you know, you've got a peg rail and you want to display things decoratively, this is in a bedroom setup. I wouldn't do that in a bedroom because I like all my clothes to be hung up in my wardrobe. But I have got a peg rail in my kitchen, and you know, perhaps that's what I need to look for. Is that look as if you're just going out into the garden, and you know, you want to slip on a lightweight jacket and, you know, wrap a scarf around your neck. Well, you could use any old scarf and jacket, but next time you're charity shopping, put it on your list and see what you can find. And here, stitching. So last year I was really into this Scandi theme of pared back and the reds and the whites. And what I like here is this little, I call it a feather stitch or a herringbone stitch. I'm not quite sure what's the right one, but it's like this sort of V shape. And that's a really, I love that pattern. And actually, if you ever make a traditional Christmas story, this is the pattern that you need to add in your greenery. You put one piece of greenery at the front and tie it in, and then you go left and then you go right. So it's centre, left, right, all the way down in a pattern that isn't dissimilar to this. So if you ever get stuck with thinking what to do, think back to this video, and that is the pattern you do. It's quite methodical, so you can go all the way around with your wreath, or you could have two pieces coming up with a nice bow in the middle and leave the rest of your hoop bare. And here, oh, it says embossed foil decorations, and I've written tin foil. I think these are what these are made out of. It's pieces of tin foil, and they've probably taken, I haven't read the description, but taking a pencil and then marking out the pattern, which looks lovely. I quite like the hearts and stars for Christmas. And again, because I think they've got longevity. Obviously, if you've got a Christmas angel, you can only use it at Christmas time and a Father Christmas. But hearts and stars for me are motifs that, you know, last, have year-round interest. And of course, Valentine's Day coming up, special anniversaries, and you know, you can nominate your Star of the Year award to anybody at any time of the day. Crackers. Now I've marked this page because, what does my little note say? Lace. I think that's in the wrong page. I think the lace sticker comes later on. But in my, I teach a regular flower arranging class on Zoom every Tuesday at 12 o'clock. And the last project we're making, which is a couple of weeks before Christmas, we're going to make our own Christmas crackers, but open up the middle and have tiny flower arrangements in. So I think that was probably a note to myself to say I must look out the template for making your own Christmas crackers. I'm going to use probably scrapbooking paper because it's quite firm and will give a really good shape. Oh, that's the sticker, which should be there. I quite like this idea. And they've made their own paper chains. And the pattern here is a lacy pattern because they've used old lace and they've painted it and used that as the print to make the paper chains. So having read the description, you know, you put an A4 sheet of paper, you cut your lace, so 3 strips of lace so it covers the whole sheet of A4 paper, and then you roller on your ink, and then you print, and then once your print is dry, you cut it up into the slices and then make your paper chains. I think that sounds like a fantastic idea, but I'm probably not going to do it. I just think it's going to be a little bit too messy. So then we've got another interview here. Skip through this. Again, depends what your Christmas look is. You might find something here really intriguing. Very nice Christmas wreath here. And this one is, it looks to me, it's got quite long pieces of green around. It looks like juniper. And instead of having that sort of three placements, sort of quite a tufty three placement, it looks to me here as if they've stretched longer pieces of green around and then just bound it on over the top. So whatever way you make your wreath, it doesn't matter as long as it's firm and secure. And when you waggle it, once you finish making it, you haven't got bits falling off. So here's a very modern, youthful looking look to Christmas. Oh, another beautiful Christmas garden with all the snow. I hope it snows this year. We don't often get snow in the southeast of England, so it's always hoping for snow. Crafting projects. I have, oh here, I'm trying to practice my fancy italic writing or my flowing handwriting script. I always think I'm going to write out my Christmas labels really neatly, and then I always leave it so late. I just end up scribbling all over the place. So these are, I think they might actually be real Christmas baubles that have been decoupaged with fabric, but I have got some polystyrene balls, and these would make a great, bauble form as well. So you need to cut out the fabric strips, and then they've taken some lace around the top, and then the hanger has got velvet ribbons on. And like all these things, it's probably something you want to start doing sooner rather than later. The run up to Christmas and the festive period gets so busy. So if I was going to make my own baubles, I would probably start making them in September. So I had plenty of time to do it. And I didn't, add another thing to the list and make myself really flustered. Now here I've said stemming, exclamation mark. When I was a teenager, I used to live in the village of Stenning in West Sussex. It's where I went to secondary school. So this is really intriguing me. And I was desperately searching all through this and searching for the lady of the house. The husband is called Jeff. Can I remember what the lady is called? I'm not quite sure. I can see it. I was thinking, wouldn't that be amazing if I knew who this woman was, who her family was? So if you live in Stenning and you know Jeff and his wife Anna, it's Anna and Jeff, and they've got sons Miller, who's 12, and Herbie, who's 10. So wouldn't it be great if I actually knew them? Perhaps they are school friends of my sister's, and I quite like that. It made me smile. But just really simple ideas here. So there's a tray here, and it's got the 4 candles in it for Advent with a tiny flower arrangement in the middle. So these are the little cat's church candles. And I think there's a Scandinavian background to the family. They've got the Scandinavian flags hanging up in the tree, and I think they've actually been knitted. So I was wondering about doing that, a Union Jack in my tree, but our flag is red, white and blue, and I just think the blue doesn't look very festive, but I quite like that idea. So if you live in a country with a red and white flag, let me know, and I'd be interested to know whether you decorate your trees with your national flag. So here we've got the reindeer skin. That reminds me of our we spent New Year in Sweden 4 or 5 years ago. Absolutely fantastic holiday. So that always reminds me of that. And then I would love to have a hanging chandelier. But I live in a house that is comparatively modern, 50 years old, and there's just nowhere to hang things like this, but it does look absolutely gorgeous. Apron over there. So I've got my festive apron on my hook in my kitchen. It's a red and white striped apron, which I actually bought as a souvenir when we were in Italy a few years ago. And then the table settings here, the dark plates, the grey napkins, and some berries and greenery that have been tied up. And it's the red and white striped baker's twine there. So there's the flags there, and the red and white toadstools, which are a real Scandi emblem of Christmas. So I have a friend who's Swedish, and I asked her about that, and she said she didn't really know where the tradition came from, apart from the fact that they are plentiful in their forests, and I guess the red and the white are the colours of Christmas time, the festive period. So I've got some little ones on little stub wires, so I can put them into decorations. I think they came from Tiger, and I've just bought some bigger ones recently when I was visiting my mum and dad, and I went to a huge garden centre. So I've got those in my stash as something new for this year. So there's Anna there. So do I know you, Anna? Anna, if you're watching, let me know. So absolutely glorious pictures here, all this sort of inspiration. Oh, a little dove there. I guess that must be on a clip. Now I have got some robins that are made on polystyrene balls with the feathers on them, so that might be an idea. I normally hang them on my Christmas tree, clip them to the branches. It looks like they're just settled there, but perhaps this year I could mix things up a bit and use them as decorations for our napkin holders. There's the two little boys decorating their tree. This I've written jumper. I have bought at the charity jumble sale I went to and I've done a video on this in one of my thrift hauls. So again, I'll try and remember to post the video in the description box. But I've bought a little Christmas dress, a knitted Christmas dress in red and white, which is probably for a 2 or 3 year old. And I thought, actually, I might hang that on my peg rail to make it look festive. I was going to change it into a cushion and use it as a cushion cover, but I'm not entirely sure. And if it doesn't work, I'll just redonate it to the charity shop. And there's some gorgeous flowers here. So this is the wreath that's been made in 2 halves. And I will say there's fresh flowers here, ranunculus and tulips. It is really, really difficult. If you're ever making your wreath where you want 2 sweeps around, you end up with your stems here, and it is very difficult to finish off neatly, which is why you normally find a ribbon at this central pot. So I don't know how this has been made or who made it. And I wonder whether it might have been, fixed for the photograph. But I'm just thinking, how have these fresh, soft stemmed flowers been added into this wreath here? And I reckon that they are there, hanging there by a wing and a prayer. Unless, of course, they're silks. But to me, they look real. So it's always a little bit of fun having a really good look at what's in your magazine and trying to read the pictures and say, was that, is it actually how I can do it? Or has it been, faked up? And here, more styling for my white bench outside. So what I'm drawn to here, again, it's this collection of things, but this tiny little Christmas tree. And I've recently bought some mini conifers. They're about this high. So what's that, 25 centimetres high. And I have thrifted some Christmas mugs that came from a supermarket originally, quite open mugs with a red and white Scandi motif on. And I was going to plant these conifers in, which are triangular shaped. And now looking at this picture here, I'm wondering whether I should clip off the lower branches to give myself this topiary tree effect, this sort of lollipop effect. So you'll have to watch this space and see what I decide to do. So some gorgeous white flowers. White flowers are lovely for Christmas, especially if you've gone, Christmas mad and it's just like busy, busy, busy. Normally, I still favour the reds for Christmas, and then between Christmas and New Year and then beyond, I sort of start going on the whites and the snow look, and it just gives a fresh look to the new year. So Christmas tree farm here, and I think we're probably coming to the end of the magazine. And then my pages are starting to stick together because I've previously spilt a cup of tea on the magazine, and it's been read and reread and reread. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed that little run through of my Christmas magazine. So it's the Country Living Christmas magazine, £6.99 and it was, I probably bought this in October 2021, but it's always worth a look at. And do look early, look from October onwards, and that gives you plenty of opportunity to read and reread your magazines, so you can start deciding how you can reinvent the Christmas decorations you've already got and mix things up a little bit. Well, that's all from me for now, and I'll see you again next time.